Hello, everybody. Wow, that's unfortunate. I had a little fireside chat thing all set up, and apparently if you hit the delete key while that is selected, it just deletes it. And there's no undo. So, boo. That's, that's unfortunate. Well, let's see here. Welcome to the stream. Tonight we are going to be painting some Axbeaks. I don't know how many we're going to be able to get to. I do have 2. I also have some other woodland creatures that I would like to get to painting to. Alright, so first thing we need to do is we need to pull up some reference images. Let me see if I can find one here. There isn't a monster manual image for the Axbeak. Pretty sure. I say that. But now I'm second guessing myself. Let's see. Axbeak. It's not in here. Maybe it's in the creatures appendix in the back. That's it. 117. Yep. Yeah, it's right there. Axbeak. No image. That's okay. So let's see if I can find one online. They come in various shapes and sizes. The one that I've seen has like a rider on it. Let me see if I can find that one. Axbeak, roly-poly, Axbeak. There it is. This one is of some orc dude chasing a halfling. And he's riding an Axbeak. We're going to use this one. Alright, so let me go pull up my reference image. Bear with me. Alright, and we don't care about the little halfling running with apples. We'll just scooch him off to the side. That's our Axbeak. It's kind of bluish. I think I'm going to make a blue one, and I'm going to make a red one. Yeah. Alright, so we have our reference image. Looks like we're going to be dealing mostly in blues and reds. I don't like the white balance of this image. Like those legs are going to be a lot more vibrant, and the yellows and orange are not going to be like gray. Alright, so we have two Axbeaks. Here they are, in all of their Axbeakiness. This was the one that I cleaned up the other day. And scoot you out of the way a little bit. There we go. I also hit it with the airbrush a little bit. This is the one that has not been touched yet. See, there's quite a bit of difference. The shadows are a lot darker. I think I'm going to leave this one. I might clean up some of the zits on it a little bit, but I don't think I'm going to hit it with the airbrush. Because I'm curious, like, how much of a difference it's actually going to make. So let's clean up a couple of these little bumps. Yeah, there we go. This one actually looks pretty good. Only missed a couple of them. Alright. Scooch all of my little animals out of the way. I don't like the position of this thing. Maybe that'll be better. I need to get a longer mic boom so I can keep it up overhead but in a better position. This one's not very nice, not very good. I printed off some large bases, so I have that available for making more bigger minis. I printed a batch of smaller bases. I actually need to print some more smaller bases. If you saw earlier, I had just about all of these used up on those small little creatures. All right. You know what? I think it's time for another paper. Let's get some clean paper. Man, I keep hitting this thing. It's time for some clean paper, some clean water. Be right back. Probably should have checked to see if I have papers available. before I pulled that one out. My dad said he was going to be watching the stream tonight. I don't see him in chat. But if you're watching, hey Dad, welcome to the stream. Glad you're here. Glad you're watching. Excited to have you here. Put too much water in there. There we go. And I hope and pray that I've got some extra papers here. Oh, whew, I do. I keep them underneath this side because it keeps them flat. They like to curl up. That makes things a little annoying. And this is just baking paper, not wax paper, just like parchment paper. And this boy is gonna curl up because it likes to curl. Yep, there it goes. Get it all nice and wet. Yeah, I know you want to curl. I'll get you flipped over. You do want to get as many of those bubbles out as possible. Those bubbles will hinder the water from penetrating the parchment paper, and it will create a dry spot, and that will dry out your paint. It will counteract the benefits of the wet palette, which keeps your paints wet while you're using it. Okay, let's rinse our brushes off because I was an idiot and forgot to wash them last night. And by last night, I mean the last time I streamed. Oof. That's bad. This is why I don't buy good brushes. I need to take better care of my brushes. We're gonna get here. I know we're just kind of cleaning things up and setting stuff up right now, but don't worry, we're gonna get to painting here soon. There we go. Alright, let's pick out our colors. What we got? We need a blue. We need a nice blue. I'm thinking something vibrant. I'm thinking probably this guy right here. And then we want a little sky blue, probably for the tips of the feathers. Maybe do a little dry brushing with that. Let's see, what else do we want to put on them? We need something for the talons, so we're probably going to go... Well, bone white's probably a little too white for the talons. What if we go like... something dirtier? What if we go like tan? Tan for the talons, and then... something for the legs. What do we want to do for the legs? No, leather brown's too much. Maybe bronze flesh tone might be good. Let's set that off to the side. That might be alright. See? I'm thinking we're going to do a bloody red. I normally don't like this red because it's like super bright and super vibrant, and most real life things aren't super bright and super vibrant. But this one's like, we're going to be doing like feathers, you know? And I think that'll be appropriate. And we'll want some white to mix in with that to make like the lighter shades. We're going to want black. I think I'm going to give it beady black eyes. And then the beak itself is probably going to be the same as like the talons. But I don't like... I don't know if I like that tan for the beak. That could be a nice contrast though. Like some mundane with some fantastical. Maybe. Let's play with it. Let's put some tan on there first. See how we like it. Then put the body color on, and once that's done, like the tan will be dry, and if we don't like it, we can change it out. And if we like it, then we like it. Yeah. That's what I say. Okay, so let's grab our brush. Let's get a little bit of paint going here. I'm going to do... Which one should I do in red and which one should I do in blue? I got the dark one, like the darker shadow one. I think I'm going to do the darker one in blue. So let's do the red one first. Let's get some tan on him. We need a decent bit. We're going to want to thin that down just a little bit. Not much. Just a little bit. There we go. And let's see what this looks like. Huh, that's not that bad. It is not covering very well at all. We're probably gonna have to put a couple coats of this on it. Getting a lot of those little goopy paint streaks. But I like the tone. And these guys are large creatures. You can tell because they're on a large base. It's a 2-inch base, and they're typically used, like, you can find Axbeaks in the wild in traditional D&D lore, but they are commonly domesticated and are used as mounts. People ride them around, which is kind of neat. You can kind of tell in our reference image with that orc riding it. I don't know if I would use these with orcs. Maybe. Honestly, I haven't thought much about using Axbeaks in a campaign, like how they would fit in a story or in a locale. The reason that we're painting Axbeaks tonight is because one of our players, the character's name is Feyre. She's like a wood elf druid. And one of the things that she can do is she can wild shape. She can turn into, like, change her shape into an animal. So she can, like, turn into a spider or a mouse or whatever. And so last game, she was like, I'm going to change into an Axbeak. And I was like, you can do that? And she was like, yeah, I can do that. And I was like, well, okay. I don't have any Axbeak minis that are painted, and I kind of wish I would have had one. But now that she's kind of liked the Axbeak, and I had these ones printed up and highlighted already, I figured I'd go ahead and get these ones painted up so that she can actually use them at the table. Because I like having stuff available at the table. I like when my players come. Oops, that shouldn't have been the whole fist. That should have just been the talons. Let's see if I can wash that off a little bit. I like being the kind of DM who has all of the stuff available. I like to impress my players, and I like putting in the hard work and effort into making the game as fun as possible. And players, traditionally speaking, love, like, tangible things. They love sitting down at a table, and yeah, D&D is like all make-believe and telling stories and everything like that, but I love giving them things to handle with their hands. Things like having physical miniatures for their characters, and, you know, if they're fighting some goblins, to actually have some goblin minis for them to fight against. And they found an old letter that was supposed to be delivered to the big bad guy of the campaign, the big bad guy of the story. And I actually made a letter, and I printed it out, and I found a font of, like, some weird elvish script, and I printed it out in that, and then I also printed it out in just like a calligraphy font. So if they knew the language that it was written in, then I would give them the one that they could, that was written in English, so they could read it. But if they didn't know the language that it was written in, then I gave them the other one. And they were like, what is this? And I was like, you can try to translate it if you want to, or you can just, find somebody who knows how to speak that language or read and write that language, and you can go about it that way. But it was the players traditionally really, really like being given a thing, like it's in their hand, and they're like, wait a minute, you said we found a letter, and then you hand them the actual letter, and they're like, whoa, it kind of blows their mind. That's what was fun. So, like, now that Feyre is able to wild shape with her druid stuff, I want to make sure that I have, like, the appropriate minis for stuff that she likes to wild shape into. A lot of times you can substitute things. So, like, if I had a different big bird mini of some kind, and she wild shaped into an Axbeak, I could just drop the big bird on there. But I've found that if you, like, players have an imagination limit, and if you substitute stuff, they have to like make a mental note that that thing on the table is not actually that thing. Right? That big bird is actually not a big bird, that's an Axbeak. Or that little thimble, is not actually a thimble, it's a goblin. And if you have a small number of players and a small number of things going on the table, on the game board, then players can typically wrap their heads around it. And they'll be like, oh yeah, it's the thimble. It's the thimble goblin, or it's the big bird Axbeak. But as soon as if you get like a lot of stuff like that going on the table, they lose track really quickly. And there's always somebody asking, wait, so the thimble's a goblin? Or wait, so our character, like she's that big bird? And I have like 7 to 8 players in my game all around a table at the same time. And that creates a lot of stuff going on. And so the more I can keep things accurate on the table, the more likely they are to not ask questions and slow the game down, trying to figure out what is what. It also keeps me having to re-explain everything that's going on the table. Because, I don't mind doing that. I mean, that's literally my role as the DM, is to explain what's going on. But if I can explain it once and then they just remember and then have a visual cue from the little miniature, like the thing that I put on the table, then that saves them some time, saves me some time. I can focus on making other parts of the game fun. Hello, Violet's TV. Welcome to the stream. We are painting D&D minis. There we go. It's kind of dirty. Yeah, kind of dirty looking. But I think that's okay. It's an animal. It's not going to be super duper clean. Alright, let's set him over here. Let's go ahead and paint this other one while we've got it out. It definitely needs a couple different coats. This tan is very, very thin. I probably shouldn't have thinned it out, but I think it's actually the paint and not the amount I thinned it, because I've kind of used up the part that I thinned out, and I'm now using like the full strength of the paint, and it's still not covering super duper well. The music we're listening to is actually something that I composed a while ago. And by composed, I mean I programmed. This is a Eurorack audio synthesizer. It's a piece of software called VCV Rack that I use that emulates Eurorack audio synthesizers. I had originally been like, it's streaming some music off of Spotify in the background, but there's a lot of complications around having the copyright to stream, and then like sometimes artists will say, sure, you can stream our stuff, but they don't realize that multiple people own, and corporations and entities own the rights to their music, and so like even if they say it's cool, you can still get like copyright strikes for it. So I was like, well, I guess that means I really just need to like write my own music. But I'm not really, like, I'm a musician, I play music, but I don't really record. And I'd been tinkering around with VCV Rack in the past, and I thought it was really cool to like pragmatically generate procedural music, essentially. So I put together these, and so that like it just randomly generates, well, not randomly, it procedurally generates music, just plays it in the background. I was trying to get the software to just run in the background and generate music, like new music on the fly, but my computer's not fast enough, so it would like pop and crackle, and it just didn't sound very good at all. So I ended up taking those songs that I made and just generated like a couple hours, and then I've been using that. And I think it's pretty chill. I like the ambience. It really gets me into like a nice calm vibe. Vibe? Is that it? I don't know if vibe's the right word. It feels weird. It's just very chill. I like it. And I hope you like it too. If you don't, leave a comment and I'll see about making some other music. Kind of vary it up. Like I've been using this one, and there's another track similar to it but different that I've been alternating between. Eventually they're going to get old and I'm going to want to listen to something else. But that involves time and making the new songs. And time is not something I have a ton of right now. Alright, we got 2 talons, 2 big talons on the feet, and 4 little talons. So if you're new to mini painting, the beginning of mini painting, like this part, is called base coating, and you're just essentially coloring in a little coloring book, and it doesn't look great. It doesn't look fantastic at all. It looks mediocre at best, and chalky and blocky at worst. I try not to even just like pay too much attention to what I'm to the end product of the mini when I'm base coating, just because it looks terrible. Like it's like I do not like the way that base coated minis look. I've said it before on this channel, but when I'm painting a mini, I don't think it starts looking good. It looks terrible right up until like the last 80. Like once you hit like 80%, the last 20% that's left, once you get around there, then you're like, oh, okay, it's starting to come together. But around this phase, it just looks flat and chunky, and it just doesn't look good. Because essentially the lighting is all wrong. You're trying to make this little thing look realistic, kind of realistic, fantasy realistic. Hey Ice, welcome to the stream. Super glad you could come and hang out. I was wondering if you're gonna pop by. But yeah, once you get into washes and the detail work at the end, that's when it starts looking good. We're painting Axbeaks tonight. Ice. I've got 2 of them here. I'm gonna do one of them in blue. Yeah, it is a chill Tuesday night. Man, my day was kind of crazy at work too, which is nice to have a little bit of chill. So I'm going to do one of them in red and one of them in blue. And we were going to do the one with less shadows in red. So let's go ahead and do that one first. Hey, Jalapeno. Welcome to the stream as well. So I'm using this tan. It's kind of a gross, like, I don't know, blasé brown. And it doesn't cover very well, but I'm using it for the beaks and like the talons and stuff. Because I figured they were, you know, these are dirty birds, kind of dirty-ish. You know, wild animals. And I don't think it looks great right now, but I feel like I have like an instinct of once I get some color onto their feathers, it's going to start looking better. So let's see how this bloody red paint looks. I wish there were more feathers on the tail. It's just like a straight up dinosaur tail. Oh well. Can't unprint the mini now. I think that that's gonna look great, actually. Yeah, I think this is a good choice. Hey, do you guys have any recommendations on what to paint next? Any minis that you guys think it'd be cool to see? I have a little bit in my gray pile over here I could show you, and we could pick from. But if there's like one that's been kind of on your mind or something like that, I could find a model and print it. I have some resin that I need to start using up before it goes bad. Well, it goes bad. It's like the vat is full and I need to like use it before it starts to separate. Once it starts separating, you can still mix it back up, but it's a bit of a pain. I like to just use it. Maybe at the end of the stream, we can take a look at my spreadsheet and pick something off of there. That way you guys can see what I have and have not yet done. This is going to be a lot of paint on this guy. Man, I really want to paint some dragons. Like, I really want to add some dragons to my collection, but dragons are so big. Like, I'm pretty sure ancient dragons are like gargantuan size. Which is so big. I mean, it's like they're like literally this big. Like the size of like half a football, or like a softball or something. I have a couple medium-sized dragons that I've painted so far. There's also a lot, like there's a lot of dragons in D&D. A bear. Now I do have a brown bear already. I don't have a black bear though. I've just been substituting my brown bear for my black bear. I could find. I'm pretty sure that in D&D black bears are like stronger and more ferocious than brown bears. Could be wrong on that. I could do a bear. You know what? I'm curious. Let me look up black bears. We got black bears, brown bears, cave bears, and polar bears, actually. Brown bears are challenge rating 1. Black bears are challenge rating 1/2, so black bears are actually weaker than brown bears. Cave bears are challenge rating 2. Polar bears are 2 as well. I could do a black bear. And just bear. No jalapeno. It has to be specific. Can't do just bear. That way when my players see, I say, you see a creature in the distance. It is bear. What kind of bear is it? It is bear. It's just bear. It's just bear. Oh no, did I miss the Avatar reference? Because I know that in Avatar they have like platypus bears, and was there a thing where it was like somebody who was like, no, we just have regular animals. It was like, it's just a bear. Or was that some YouTube video that I saw? Where somebody was like weirded out how somebody from the Avatar universe was weirded out how like it was just, no, it was just a platypus. Or like, we just have regular bears. So, over here, in my gray pile, I have a chimera that I've been... Looks like I've already started it. That I've been meaning to finish. So that's on the list. Oh, that's right. His party for his bear. I forgot about that one. I have a chimera. I have a gynosphinx and an androsphinx. That's the gynosphinx. This one's the androsphinx. I have a bunch of flumps. Flumps are funny. They're these little goofy, floaty, bubbly dudes with tentacles, and they're just like super chill and nice. And like people get freaked out by them because they're really alien looking and they're kind of, you know, they're monsters, but they're good. They're good dudes. And they speak telepathically, so they like talk into your mind and they're like, "Hey man, what's up?" But it like freaks people out. And they have this thing where it's like they're almost like turtles, where if you flip them upside down, they just like they can't do anything. They just like writhe around with their tentacles, and they're like, "Hey man, get me up. Hey man. Hey man, come on." Yeah, flumps are pretty cute. They're hilarious. I've yet to use them in a game. I'm kind of waiting to... I think I want to use them in like an Underdark setting where it's like in caves and it's deep dark in the ground and the players are like surrounded by danger all the time and they're super paranoid, and then they see this floating jelly bean with octopus tentacles. And they're like, "Oh no, I mean, it's gonna eat us," and it's just like, Hey man, how you doing? Hey, it's dangerous around here. You should go over here. It's a whole lot nicer over here. I think that'd be hilarious. I like injecting levity into games. and subverting players' expectations. I just like it when players have fun. I like bringing the fun. When they're having fun, I'm having fun. Oh yeah, because there's like a bunch of them. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 6 of these little flumps. So yeah, I definitely would have to like differentiate them. Flumps are also like one of the reasons why I printed them and like so early in this monster manual thing is the there's a lot of random tables, like random magic tables. Like if you are in a weird magically enhanced place, it'll say roll a D100 and a strange magical effect will happen, like your skin will turn blue, or your voice becomes super high pitched for an hour. Or there's like one on the wild magic sorcerer table where it's like you turn into a potted plant until you take damage. Lots of folks who think that like D&D is super serious and like it's Satan cult worship or something like that. They don't realize how absolutely goofy D&D is most of the time. It's like designed to be super goof. But one of the wild magic things that can happen is you roll a D100 and you just summon like 1d8 flumps. And so it's like you're in the middle of this epic battle and there's this evil dragon that you're fighting against. He's breathed fire, and the wild magic sorcerer, casts a spell. And you're like, all right, roll on the table. And you cast it, and then there's just like, poop, 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 like popcorn. There's just like 6 flumps in the middle of like, this big dragon. And they're like, hey, man, whoa, there's a dragon over. Hey, that's not cool, man. You should come over. And they like start floating around and in the middle of your big epic moment. So I kind of wanted to have some flumps on hand so that should that ever happen, I could just like drop them on the table. I think that'd be hilarious. So dare I say that this thing is too red? Oh no, I'm painting its legs. I'm an idiot. I was supposed to paint this like the orange. This isn't feathers down here. This is like his legs. What am I doing? I'm talking about flumps is what I'm doing and not paying attention to what I'm supposed to be doing. Well, I'm going to go ahead and finish painting it so that when I cover it with the bronze flesh tone, it looks the same. That means I'm going to have to paint the other side too. Oh well. Worse things have happened. All right. I'm about to use up all this red. So Axbeaks. Axbeaks are, like I said before, they're mounts. You can domesticate them, and they're relatively low challenge rating, but they're like surprisingly flexible. They have decent attack strength. Let me see what their challenge rating is. I want to say it's like 1/4. Okay, so they're CR 1/4, +4 to hit with their beak, and they do 1d8 +2 slashing damage with their beak, which is nothing to sneeze at. I think they have a decent run speed. Yeah, they have like a movement speed of 50 feet, so that's where they're really good. They are great for positioning, and getting where they need to be. They also have decent hit points for a lower creature. I got like 19 hit points. So our druid, when they were fighting the Gagamba gang the other day, turned into an Axbeak, and wasn't able to do too much because she was kind of new to it and overwhelmed. But I think that it would be great if she turned into an Axbeak and then one of the other players rode her as a mount, because that would give them both 50 feet of movement and could be pretty awesome. Druids are really effective in D&D. They're one of the more complicated classes to learn how to play, because their spell casting is very big. Like they can potentially learn a very like they can potentially have access to a lot of spells, and keeping track of what does what and for how long and who and where, and that's the complicated stuff. That's the fun stuff in D&D. Spellcasting in D&D is like one of the better parts of it, in my opinion, just because it kind of breaks the game. You know, D&D, the core rule set is all about simulating. You know, it's like storytelling, right? It's like when you're kids and you're playing yaha na, and you're sitting in the back of the car on the road trip, and you're like, I got a motorcycle outside and it's going super duper fast, and your brother or sister is like, oh yeah, well I got a turbo motorcycle and it's gonna start shooting rockets at you, and the other brother is like, no, well my motorcycle has like a rocket-proof shield. Oh yeah, well these are shield-resistant rockets, and you're kind of going back and forth. And D&D is very much just like that, but with rules, so that there's less yaha, nuh-uh. And so, like, at its core, it's just like this rule system to simulate reality. You know, like if there's a wooden door and you need to push it open, you make a strength check, and there is like a resistance, like the wood is so strong, and it's, if you're able to break the wood, then you get through, and you break the door down, or you push it open, or you pick the lock, or you greet the traveler kindly enough for them not think that you're a weirdo. At its core, it's just like a rule system, but magic in D&D kind of exists to break those rules. If your swim speed is adjusted by your strength and your character is not strong, you're going to have a hard time swimming across a river. But if you have a potion of water walking, and you drink the potion and now you can walk across the water, or you have a potion of water breathing and you can walk under the water, that kind of breaks those rules. It's like you don't have to worry about the swimming and the strength and stuff anymore. And druids have access to a lot of spells. And spells, since they are rule breaking, they have to be like written out very specifically, or else they can be very easily used out of context. If you have a potion or like a spell of water breathing per se, and it says you're able to breathe liquid, right? And like if it uses that word liquid instead of water, well, can you breathe oil? Sure, you can. Yeah. You drop in a puddle of oil. Maybe this spell makes it just so that you're not absorbing oxygen out of the water. Maybe it's more like it makes it so that your blood is just oxygenated, like it has a store of oxygen for 10 minutes or whatever, and so you don't need to breathe. So it doesn't matter what liquid goes into your lungs, you just don't have to breathe. But then you can be like, well, lava's a liquid. Does that mean it says I can breathe liquids? Does it mean I can breathe lava? Got to be careful with your wording. And since the wording is very specific, when you're casting those spells, and you're a druid and you have a lot of spells available to you, you kind of have to make sure you know your stuff, or else you could be using the wrong thing at the wrong time and causing trouble. I remember one a D&D game that I was watching. There was one spell that their druid cast. It was called Gaseous Form, I think is what it was called. And it turns you into a puffy cloud. Your body goes bleep, and it like starts to turn into like this gaseous cloud. And she was trying to like, the party was in danger. They were fighting something that was really bad. It was a really strong monster. And where's the thing? Sorry, I gotta check on this thing here. Hello, Feet and Atten. Aten or Atten. Welcome to the stream. I'm glad to have you. Anyway, she turned everybody into clouds and was like, all right, everybody, get away. And didn't realize that, like, when you turned into a cloud, your speed is like 15 feet. Like, because you're just a cloud, you're just like slowly woo, 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 woo. You also can't attack. You can't talk because you're a cloud. You can't, so it's like nobody could talk to each other and say, hey, this is bad, can you turn this spell off please, because we can't move fast enough to get away. You could still take damage. It was only half damage, but you could still take damage. And it was just like, she was just like thinking, hey, this is a cloud, you know, we could float away. But she didn't read the fine print and ended up causing more trouble. It was hilarious. It was absolutely hilarious. But yeah, caused a whole bunch of trouble. Oh man, I really like this blue. This blue makes me happy. I don't know what it is about this blue. I feel like I'm gonna need to do something to the skin on these Axbeaks to make it look more like feathers. I wonder if I could, like, I was gonna say do some feathering, which is like a painting technique. Feathering makes it look like feathers. I wonder if I could do some feathering and make like a little, or like some stippling, and make like a little feather pattern along the back. It's kind of got some bumps, almost looks scaly, which I guess could be kind of like feathery skin, maybe. I don't know. There we go. We'll see. But druids are pretty cool, and their wild shape is so useful. Like it's useful in combat. For, you know, you can like turn into a bear and be like, "Roar, I'm a bear," and I do a bunch of bear stuff, bear damage. But like even outside of combat, it's so useful to literally be a fly on the wall and like listen in on conversations, or turn into a horse and just, you know, run for help, or, you know, run to get ahead of somebody or whatever, or to like turn into a bird and fly away, and or like follow that airship and sneak onto it because you're a bird, or turn into a fish, hide in the water, and then poof, pop out and be like, ah! Like, it's so situational. It's so useful. But they are complex. Druids and wizards, I think, are the more complicated classes in D&D. Monks can be pretty complicated, but it kind of depends on how you play your monk. But my poor player, she picked the elf druid because it was a pre-built character sheet. I should probably like adjust my pre-built character sheets that I use for first-time players and like not include a druid, because druids are just so complicated. I mean, there's already... I don't think there's a wizard in that list. Maybe excluding wizards and druids from first-time players would be a good thing. Nobody wanted to be a bard. It made me sad. I love bards. Bards are my favorite class. You can cast magic by singing songs. It's the most fun. I've played like three or four characters in my life playing D&D, and 2 of them have been bards. And I love bards. Oh, I did it again. Painted his foot. Ah. You've seen bards in action? Yeah, you have. Seen my bard in action. Bee. I think you've seen both of my bards in action. Man, I'd love to play a high-level bard. Whew. High-level lore bards are so strong. I really wanted to get Thalius up to like level 15. Where you get... So lore bards are like more than just instrumentalists. Like, it's not that they just play music. They do play music, but they're more like cultural people, if that makes sense. Because like musicians back in the day, it's kind of built on the idea that like musicians back in the day would not just sing songs for entertainment, but sing songs for like history, like the battle of something, or you know, the time, the romance between two people, or like the day the king's pants fell down, or whatever. You know, it was like, that's how culture and story would travel, was through music and stories. And so bards aren't just like musicians, they're also like lore keepers. And there's, you know, there's like a cultural appropriation? No, that's not right. There's like a cultural aspect to them. And the bards that I have played, the one that I really wanted to get to a high level, he was a lore bard, which means he was really interested in stories and sharing stories and telling stories. And one of the things that lore bards get to do at higher levels is they get these this feature called magical secrets. And at a certain level, they have the spells that all bards can learn. But at higher levels, when they get their magical secrets feature, like through their understanding and learning of stories and whatnot, they can just learn spells from any other class. So they can learn like high-level wizard spells, and high-level sorcerer spells, and warlock spells, and druid spells, and it's just like, it's really strong. And one of the best things, like build-wise, to invest in is Simulacrum, which essentially lets you make a clone of yourself out of snow. You make like a little snowman you, and then it like assumes your shape and form, and like it's just like you too, and they're like your little buddy, and they can like walk around and they can cast your spells. The downside is that like it's hard for them to heal, because they're just like, they're similar to you, but they aren't you. They aren't an actual person. And so they can cast all of your spells that you knew when you created them, and they have all of your spell slots. They just can't get them back. Once they burn up a spell slot, it's gone. Also, if they get hurt, like you can't use healing magic on them. You have to do like a special thing with snow or something like that. I don't know. I never got to use it. And that's like super strong, having a whole extra you with all of your spells and abilities. Super duper strong. Another thing you can do at higher levels is you can learn Wish, which is a 9th level spell that breaks the game. It can literally break the game. and you can use it to cast any spell, like just any spell period, or you can use it to just make a wish, and then the DM has to interpret how that wish actually happens. So you could just say, I wish that there was no evil in the world, and the DM would have to figure out how that works. But yeah, you can literally use it to bend and break reality in the game, which is kind of wild. I think I've mentioned it on here before, but my favorite instance of the use of wish was when these bunch of guys were playing D&D, and they made it to the end of the campaign, and something happened, and like the guy cast wish, and he wished for time to reset, and so they or like wished to go back to the beginning or something like that. So they essentially like started the whole game all over because his wish spell reset time. That was kind of the inspiration for my game with the cycle, and then restarting it with the dwarf and the wish spell and stuff. It's just really cool, man. You just can't do that in other types of like computer games or anything like that. You can't. Computers aren't powerful enough to have imagination and actual logical reasoning. But that's what I wanted. I wanted to have a lore bard who could break reality and have a mini-me buddy version of himself. I'm kind of thinking this blue Axbeak needs some purple on him. I was gonna have these like feathers go out to like a light sky blue, like that one over there. But I'm kind of thinking he needs some purple on him now. These feathers on the back of the head are a pain to paint. It is messing my brush up too. Okay. He's looking good. I mean, it's only base coated, so it looks terrible. But I really like the tone. Red dude and blue dude. I think the next thing I'm going to do is get this bronze flush tone onto the legs. Yeah, that brush has seen better days. Alright, now how far up the leg do I want to go? The foot, definitely. If I look at my reference image, it almost looks like it goes up maybe to the knee. Look over there at the reference image. Looks like it kind of goes up to the knee. I think that's probably a good place to go. Hey, A&MCC. welcome to the stream. So ANMCC, is it difficult to play a druid? Do you find it challenging? I know you've played a druid in our home game. You've only ever played a druid, haven't you? You haven't played anything other than a druid. The blue is shining through a little. Yeah, I think this would have looked better if I wouldn't have painted them blue. But maybe I could put on an extra coat and make up for that. It's kind of tinting the yellow. There we go. Jalapeno, man, you missed out last night. Last night? Yes, last night on the Dungeon Delve. Man, that game was crazy. Oh, it was so much fun. You'll have to ask Chris about it, but I actually used Yakril, your dwarf character, to spook the crud out of Chris. it was great. Oh man, it was so good. They went down one level deeper into the dungeon. Okay, actually, before I say this, just to kind of set the scene a little bit, I do run a separate game on the side. Like aside from the new game that like with these Axbeaks and stuff are for Axbeaks, and it's I call it the Donjon Delve, DONJOHN, because my name's John and it's silly and it's punny. But it's just supposed to be like a dungeon crawl. There's not a lot of story going on. It's just, you know, you move from room to room and you look for monsters and you kill monsters. It's also the first time that we've played with leveling up by like actual experience instead of milestone, and it was supposed to be like an exercise, but man, we have fell in love with it. And so anyway, they made it down to level 4, I think. And the manticore, there's like a manticore in the upper levels that they were able to escape, and ended up trapping them. Like it's behind them and it's coming towards them, so they run down the stairs, and it's off in the distance. They can hear its feet booming in the distance, and so they're wandering down these halls looking for a place to hide. They happen to stumble right into the manticore's nest, like its lair that it's heading towards, and find its female, its mate, sitting there sleeping. The manticore is like right behind them, bringing dinner home from the goblins that they had just eaten and killed up above. No, it gets better. It gets better, Ice. So they're in the the room's called the slaughterhouse. It's kind of gross, but like there's like dead goblins like pinned to the wall that they've just been eating off of. It's like where they bring their food, and they just kind of like lay it in piles and pin them to the wall and stuff like that, and just kind of like the refrigerator. If dinosaurs had refrigerators, it'd be like that. But yeah, so they're like sneaking through here, and they hear the manticore coming, and they peek in the other room, and they see the female sleeping, and they're like, well, junk. And so we go into like a pseudo initiative, where like the players all get to do something, and then the manticore gets to do something, just so I could track them doing stuff while trying to keep some real time and some pressure, some time pressure on. Otherwise they would have discussions and debates until they were blue in the face on what the best course of action was. So they kind of poke their heads into the nest room, and they see another open door on the other side. So they're like, all right, well, we're running through. We're going to tiptoe through Pink Panther style and come out on and get into that other room, because there's a manticore behind us and there's a manticore in front of us, and we need to do something. So they tiptoe through there. They make their stealth checks. They made like 3 or 4 stealth checks against both of these manticores. It's just like they're rolling insanely high, and I'm rolling insanely low, just over and over. I think we had a total of like 4 nat 1s on my side for these perception checks to find them. It was just crazy. It was bonkers. So they stumble into the other room, and they're like, okay, and they turn around, and the room is full of treasure. This is like the manticore's treasure hoard. They've been like collecting shinies, because they're manticores, and just stashing them in here. And they're like, now they have to decide whether they're going to take some of this gold and treasure and stuff and potentially make noise or get out. They also have to like be super careful, because like the whole floor is covered in gold. I think it was actually silver pieces, but it was covered in coins, and so it was like slippery ground, and they had to be careful not to like cause a big pile of coins to slide around and make a bunch of noise. They all start tiptoeing across. 2 of them make it across. Mac makes it across. Set makes it across. Urarth, which is their purple orc rogue. Don't ask why he's purple. It's a thing. And he gets like halfway across, and he sees a treasure chest in the middle of this pile. And he's like, I'm going for it. And so he's like tiptoeing across, and he like sideswipes and knocks over, like fails his dexterity check, and knocks over a pile of coins and makes a bunch of noise. Then Mac uses some sort of spell to make it sound like a small animal in the other room where the dead goblins were, like a bunch of rats were in there, to kind of distract. The female manticore wakes up, and she hears the rats in the other room, and is like, oh, that must have been what woke me up. She like gets up and walks in there to check on it and see what's going on with the rats, sees her mate in there, and is like, oh, it's you. So they totally skirted. Oh yeah, greed takes over. They totally skirted these manticores like 4 times, and made off with all of the treasure. They got like a couple magic items that were in that treasure case, that treasure chest. But so the part of the story where your character comes in, Jalapeno, is that there's a door in this treasure room that it's like a big heavy set door. And so they hear the manticores talking in the other side, like, you woke me up, and he's like, I brought dinner, don't be mad, blah 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 blah. They're kind of arguing, bickering back and forth. And Mac is like, okay, I'm unlocking the door, or I'm opening the door, and I'm getting out of here. And so he goes to open the door, and he's like, it's not locked, is it? Because they have a rogue, but they don't have thieves' tools to like try to pick a lock. And I told him that the door doesn't, like, he jiggles the handle and it doesn't turn. And he's like, oh no, and I can like hear it in his voice. He's like panicking, and freaking out because they're essentially in a dead end with 2 manticores. And I tell them, like, while you're jiggling it, you like, it doesn't move, but then it like does, like, it does twist, but then it doesn't, and it feels like something's twisting against it. And it ends up being your character, Jalapeno Yakroll, on the other side trying to open the door, and he was trying to open it at the same time. I had rolled dice to see what was going on because he like left the party because you weren't playing, and I was like, well, he's probably like wandering around looking for the players. He probably snuck down after the manticore to see if he could help out. But yeah, he was trying to open. He ended up trying to open up the door at the same time as Mac, and so it was like, when your siblings locked you in the room and they're holding the doorknob and you're trying to turn it and they're trying to turn it, and like neither of you can get it open. He said he's he should ask him about it. He said he was panicking so hard. But yeah, they ended up reuniting and getting out of there, and got away with all the treasure and didn't have to fight any manticores. I actually gave them, that was such an intense thing, and they rolled so well. I gave them like half experience for the encounter of 2 manticores. It was pretty great. Oh man, it was so fun. I wish we'd have played that game in person because I'd have loved to see the look on Chris's face. But we were playing on Owlbear Rodeo and over Discord, so I couldn't. It was like just voice, so I couldn't see him. But man, that was so much fun. It's like the whole point of it was supposed to be like super hard and challenging for the players. It was supposed to be like an exercise in player creativity because it was going to be really difficult. Like they were like banished to this island. They were like dropped off by these pirate dudes, just left there to die. And so their only hope of survival is to get to the bottom of this dungeon and escape into the Underdark, because apparently this dungeon has like an opening into the Underdark. And so it's supposed to be like this gritty, hard survival game, and it has like them expecting that their players could die at any time. And if their player characters die, they'll just make up a new character. A new character gets dropped off by the pirates, and then they'll play that character. It's created this game of unexpected goofiness. I think since they're holding loosely to their characters, they're a little more risky with them. Like if he dies, it's just whatever. We'll just spin up another character. And I don't know. It's made them a lot more open to trying things and not being as careful with stuff. But what's happened is that they've been doing so many crazy things that they typically wouldn't do, and they're succeeding and seeing just how survivable characters in D&D are, that they're like falling in love with their characters, and now they're starting to get paranoid again because they actually like their characters now and they don't want to lose them. It's so funny. D&D is so fun. Oh, it's hilarious. I love it. All right. So we got their legs on, their chicken legs. We got their talons, their chicken talons. I kind of feel like I don't know. Something feels off about this. Doesn't something look a little off? Like, I wonder if some of this bronze flesh tone needs to be around the edge of the beak. And maybe the beak needs to, like, transition into the brown. Or maybe it needs to be just, like, the bottom. I need to play more D&D so I have more stories to share. I'll definitely have stories to share on Saturday, on Saturday's stream. Because my home game, or not my home game, my new players game, the Lost Mines of Phandelver game, is we're playing on Saturday at noon. And I anticipate it to be a long game, because we normally get together at 6 and end up stopping, like, I think we're supposed to stop at 9 but end up like stopping at 10:30 just because everybody's really into it. So if we're gonna play at my house at 12, they're probably gonna want to like play for a long time. That kind of looks a little better. I kind of like the orange underneath. I'm gonna try some feathering just around. Yeah, I think this is the right choice. It's giving it kind of like a dodo bird vibe, and I love it. Yeah, I think that looks a lot better. I think that needs to go out a little bit more. Yep, that was the right choice. Alright, let's go ahead and do that on blue now. Let's see, what else happened in the Dungeon Delve game? Oh, I know what happened. They ended up befriending some goblins. They're trying to convert them to Cageism. And are being relatively successful with it. But when they ended up sleeping in the goblins' warren, because they'd kind of befriended them enough to take a long rest there. And we ended the session with a secret stone wall opening up in that room, and 2 lizard men coming out and asking Mac to come with them, because Mac is a lizard man. He's a lizard folk. and he's kind of playing himself off as like this southern country guy. Talks with a deep southern accent. He's like, "Hey, I'm Mac the Lizard Man," and he uses a lot of slang like, "Well, what in tarnation?" or "I'll make you slap your mama," stuff like that. And the adventure that I'm using for the dungeon delve, it's actually I'm like modifying an existing thing. It's actually called, well, don't look it up if you're a player, because there's spoilers. But there's a guy named Dyson who makes fantastic maps. He actually has had a bunch of his maps published in like official D&D books. If you've ever seen Dungeons and Dragons maps that have like the little cross hatching on the edge of the walls, that's a Dyson map. His website's called like Dyson Logos. Great maps, great guy. I use a lot of his stuff. But he put together a mini mega dungeon. And it's just like this big dungeon. But it's like all of the maps fit on, because he's a map maker. All of the maps fit onto like a single page of paper, single piece of paper. So you could like print them off, have a stack of them, and do like a dungeon. So I took all of those maps, and he also built like encounters for them. So he like kind of made this little dungeon. And so I've taken that and used it as a skeleton, and that's where I've been making the dungeon delve. It wasn't made for D&D. It was made for some other system, and I can never remember what it's called. So I've been having to like convert it over to 5e, to D&D 5e, which has been fine. But it's been nice because I don't have to figure stuff out. I don't have to plan stuff and whatnot, and I can still. But it's like still enough of like a skeleton that I can, if the players make crazy choices, I can roll with that and inject their story into the dungeon. But when I was looking through floor 4 of this dungeon, I was like, oh, there's a secret room back there. Okay, well, all right. So there's goblins here. There's a secret room there. I was reading about the secret room, and I was like, well, there's lizard men in there. It's just these lizard men doing lizard men things. And I was like, well, Mac's a lizard man, and that means that, at least in this world, they're not monsters. Like if there's lizard men that are characters, and that there's one that's been banished to this dungeon, maybe these other lizard men have been banished, or like they're not monsters. They're like lizard men people. And I was like, I bet they're from the same swamp as Mac, or at least from like the same town or city or country. So I was reading up on lizard men and figuring it out and whatnot. So yeah, I had them like, they were sneaking into the goblins' room to steal food, because they've just been kind of living off their food in there, and sneaking in at night to get it. Because lizard men are all about survival and breeding. It's like their MO. And I was like, well, that's kind of the country bumpkin lifestyle, or at least the stereotypical one. So I made them like sneak in there, and they're like, hey man, I see another lizard man over there. We should go talk to him. And so they went over there and talked to him. They're like, hey man, what you doing in here? We gotta get you out of here. And Chris was like, go with you? And they were like, yeah man, come on, let's go. And he was like, okay. And so he just like left the party, snuck off with the other lizard people. And that's where we ended the session. So then we're gonna get to see what happens with Mac and the other lizard folk the next time we play. And the dungeon delve's so fun. There's been a number of sessions that we've played where I didn't even prepare. I just winged the whole thing. I had the adventure and what kind of stuff was in the rooms of the maps, and it was just like, we'll just see what happens. and just improvise the whole thing as a way of stretching my own skills as a DM. Let's paint their eyes next. It's so fun. Actually, I'm going to do some blue because some of this blue, yeah, it sounds like Mac. Self-preservation. But that's also, like, that's lizardmen. They are true neutral. They are all about survival and maintaining their population. That's why they, like, eat whatever. Like, they have a feature where they can, like, eat monsters that they've defeated and get stuff for it. Or something like that. Oop, oh, the light turned off. Because they're not above that kind of stuff. They're just like, you know, we're out in nature, we're in the wild, and stuff's gotta, you know, you gotta eat stuff. Let me swap out this battery real quick. About knocked that guy off. Come on. There it goes. Alright, let's paint their eyes. And then we'll do some highlights. How are we doing on time? 10:40. We got 20 minutes. So here's a little trick. It works in video games and cartoons. It's not necessarily realistic. But if you want a creature to look sentient, like it is aware, give it a pupil. If you don't want it to look, if you want it to look animalistic, just give it a solid black eye. And I don't know why this trick works. But it does. Yeah, Mac's definitely a survivor, that's for sure. Especially when you cut his arm off instead of to get away from getting mummy rot. I don't think I should have used this bloody red, because I'm starting to realize, I don't think I realized it before, that this is either glossy or semi-glossy. And it's making these feathers shiny. I don't like that. I thought it was just still damp, but apparently that bloody red is a glossy red. I thought the bloody part of the name was just like the shade, but I guess it's supposed to like simulate blood. I don't know. I never really have cared for that red too much. I like these other ones a lot better. Oh, really? He contacted you outside a game? That's amazing. nervous about this. I'm gonna try some orange. I'm gonna try some bright orange first. This orange is kind of thin, so it'll almost glaze over the top of this red. But I'm thinking... just kind of... yeah, actually this is going to be great. Just kind of hit some of these feathers. There's a lot of them, but I think this is going to be good. It is going to be a little time consuming though. So this effect here is very subtle. Oh, it actually looks better on the camera than it does in real life. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to maybe just go straight white, but I might like add some white to this orange or add some white to the red and just hit the tips. He didn't say what it was though, so he said to cut the arm off. It took, oh, so he said to be ready for something essentially. Yeah, that's another thing that I've been learning in the Dungeon Delve game is when to just say yes. When to, you know, to just let a thing happen. If somebody's got a crazy kooky idea that's just off the wall, and they want to do it, just have fun with it. Just say yes. I think that was Chris Perkins who said that in one of his games that I watched. And you know, he knows a thing or two about D&D. If you're not familiar with Chris Perkins, he is like the lead director at D&D, on D&D at Wizards of the Coast. And I really, really like his DMing style. Like, I really like... I've seen a lot of DMs online. My first experience with Dungeons and Dragons was with the Adventure Zone. So that was the McElroy brothers. Can't think of his name. Why can't I think of the McElroy brothers' name? Who's the DM? I can remember Travis McElroy. But I cannot remember the name of the other ones. The youngest. Holy cow. That's weird. Anyway. And he's very much a storyteller. You know, they podcast, and their style is more of like an audio drama almost. Radio. They're coming from like a radio place. And I was like, okay, you know, that's... Oh man, that was so great, and I love that kind of stuff. Yes, he's kind of notoriously crafty, like, and maybe a bit merciless when it comes to DMing. But can I tell you a secret, Ice? That was such a smart move. That was such a smart move to have them roll a d20. Because it was a one-shot. There's we've talked about it a little bit in previous shows with how one-shots are so much more difficult to run than a campaign. Because you have limited time, you have limited resources, and also your party is stacked. Like they have all of their hit points, they have all of their magic items, they have all of their spell slots, they have all of their abilities, they have everything. Yeah, for real. But the thing is like the players were freaking out, and they really shouldn't have needed to freak out. Like, they were freaking out because their brain is in the story, but Chris's brain is in the story as well. But like, he knows the mechanics. He knows that just because, like, even if one of them went unconscious, they have clerics with them they have people with healing spells that can just like bring that stuff back. You know, when you're balancing encounters for an adventure, you're supposed to like have 3 or 4 encounters a day. And the really hard encounters, and you do that so that the hard encounters at the end of the day are hard, because the players don't have all of their stuff. They've been using their spell slots. They've been like using their hit dice, and they're getting low on stuff. And that's what makes it intense, is because they're not at full strength. If you let players rest and like have long rests all the time, they're going to go supernova on everything that they fight. And it's just going to be, they're going to wreck stuff. They're going to just absolutely destroy monsters because they are at peak condition. So if you're doing a one shot, you really need to soften the players up. You need to do something to get them to burn up some of their abilities. And that's not to be mean or to be like, haha, inflict pain and suffering because I'm an evil DM or whatever. It's so that the players have fun. Because if they go up against an ancient brass dragon and they're able to go Nova on the thing, they're going to destroy it, and it's not going to feel dangerous. They're not going to feel like they earned that fight. They're just going to plow right through it, and it's going to be like, oh man, that ancient brass dragon was a joke. Peeking behind the curtain a little bit, Jalapeno, you might remember that one time when I dropped you guys from the sky into the water. That was just to soften you guys up. That's the only reason I did that. I wanted somebody to burn some spell slots so that they didn't have all their spell slots, to kind of save themselves. And you could either take some damage, which you're just going to heal it back anyway. You're just going to, I mean, it's just a little bit, you know, it's not going to be enough to kill you. You just take some damage, or you burn a spell slot instead. And so that let players trade off. And that's what Chris was doing, is he was letting them, he was just getting them to use some resources to make the fight feel more intense. And that's super smart DMing. If you like his stuff, Ice, you should check out Acquisitions Incorporated. It is an adult D&D game. They use a lot of language, but it really shows Chris's DMing style, and he's fantastic. It's so good. There's a very popular writer who is in the Acquisitions Incorporated game. His name's Pat Rothfuss. He's a really chill dude, really cool guy. And I don't know what it is, but they have there's this running joke that that Pat, whenever he gets in trouble, he likes to bargain with Chris. Yeah, definitely check it out. It's super fun. Okay, so let me back up a second. So the Adventure Zone is great for storytelling. If you want to understand how D&D works with storytelling and to tell a compelling story, check out the Adventure Zone. Very, very mature podcast, by the way. Lots of language and mature content. If you're curious of what D&D looks like at an actual table with actual friends, check out Critical Role. Critical Role is fantastic for seeing what it's like with a bunch of friends at the table, with really compelling story, really compelling content, and really good players. If you want to learn how to be a good player and actually contribute to the story, check out Critical Role, and you'll realize, like, they hype up Matt Mercer as the Dungeon Master and making this big world and this cool story. He makes awesome worlds, but the players make awesome stories because they tell the story. The Dungeon Master doesn't tell the story, the players tell the story. Dungeon Master tells the world. But if you want to see what's like good, clean, well, I say good, clean fun, a good silly fun time D&D campaign, check out Acquisitions Incorporated. It is so goofy, but it's goofy in the best way, where it's like you're cool, like you understand the goofy makes sense. It's like in world goofy, if that makes sense. It's great. But Pat, he likes to bargain with Matt. I mean, not Matt. Chris Perkins, their DM. So if he gets in trouble, he's like, so, you know, am I close enough to get over there? Like, would you say that I would have enough you know, if I swung off of this chandelier, could I make it over there? And Chris is always like, sure, Pat. He's just like, yeah, sure. And like none of the others bargain with them, and they're like, Pat, how do you get away with all of this stuff? Or like they're like, hey Chris, we want to try this thing, and Chris is like, nah, I don't think so. But like every time Pat asks something, he like makes these wild bargains and descriptions of how things would be plausible, and Chris is just like, sure, for you, Pat, yeah, absolutely. And I love it so much, because the players get so mad at Pat. they're like, what kind of blackmail do you have on our dungeon master, Pat? Like what what dirt do you have on him that you can just say whatever? Like, yeah, sure, here you go, Pat. Have 100,000 XP, Pat. It's great. It's so fun. It's so goofy. I love it. Actually, I want to get back onto this one. I'm gonna try a little white, and I'm gonna water it down some. Acquisitions Incorporated is super funny. They've kind of gotten to the point where, you know how like YouTubers and other big popular content creators, once they've been doing it for a long time, they kind of want to move out of the spotlight, so they start introducing other people to kind of take their place. They've started doing that. They have like the B team and the C team of Acquisitions Incorporated. So if you're curious in some of that content, it's okay. They have a lot of good stuff, but the main games are fantastic. I don't know if I like this. Yeah, I don't think it really adds too incredibly much. I think it kind of just looks messy. I'm gonna go ahead and just do it anyway, since I did it on the other side. But the whole premise behind Acquisitions Incorporated is that they're an adventuring company. And so there's this very silly business acumen that's going on all the time. Like the members of the party, one of them's the CEO, and a couple, like Pat's character, he's an intern, and he's like constantly trying to overperform to get a promotion, to get a cut of the treasure. And like the dynamics of it is just incredibly hilarious. Maybe if I did a little white and a little orange, and I just like made this a really light orange, and I used that instead. I like that better. That's not as stark. But that was a huge tangent. But I think the reason that I got there is that one of Chris Perkins' things is he says, just say yes. When players want to do fun, silly stuff, you know, within reason. I say within reason, but he says just say yes. You can not go on an adventure in your real life. You can not do crazy stuff every day. So with the dungeon delve, I've really tried to find a way. When somebody wants to do something crazy and silly, I really try to find a way to make it work. So I really try hard to say yes, unless it's like incredibly problematic. And even then, a lot of times I'll say, like the improv thing is to say yes and. The alternative to that is to say no, but. And so you kind of bargain a little bit. You kind of go, it's like, so they're like, can I do this thing? Well, no, you actually can't do that. But what you can do is this, and this is probably close to what you were wanting anyway, and I think that this would work better. So I use that a good bit. I use no but just saying yes to stuff, just letting people have fun and do crazy stuff. This is not every campaign has to be super intense Lord of the Rings. Oh, Brandon Lee Mulligan. He is a fantastic DM. He is such an agile mind. Man, I wish my mind moved as fast as his. Of course, he's been playing D&D since he was like 8 years old or something like that. Oh, I think I'm going to call him good. I think I'm going to wash him and call him good. Yeah, his players work really well together too. There is a danger in setting your expectations high for like professional comedy sketch artists and expecting yourself as a player or your players as a DM to be that good. You wanna measure those expectations, because they all work for college humor and do comedy sketches and like improv all the time. But yes, they work very well together. But that is sketch comedy though, like saying yes and not shutting somebody down, or saying that somebody's joke is a bad idea or something like that, but actually taking it and layering on top of it. That's a skill, and it's a skill that anybody can learn, but it is a skill that needs to be that you need to kind of grow into. But that was another thing that I've been trying to help along with my players in the dungeon delve is commit to the bit. If you're gonna make a joke, like make the joke in character and make it a part of the game. Like there's almost this fear sometimes of messing up in D&D and messing up the story for everybody else, and it's really intimidating. And it's like I want to tell a joke and then stand back, see if everybody likes it, and then if everybody likes it, then it's cool, and we'll say I made the joke in game. But if people don't like it and it just falls flat, oh man, that's embarrassing. I would rather that be on me and that just kind of run by, rather than mess up the story because I said something stupid. And that really relies on your trust with your other players who are your friends, and just kind of understanding humor in general. And there's a lot of back and forth that I've seen happen in games, even this game with the new players, my Lost Mines of Phandelver game. They really suffer from this, where they want to they say all these crazy things and these silly things, and I would love for that to happen in game, but they're very adamant that they're saying it out of character. And it's like if you're gonna play the game, let's play the game. Let's do all this in the game. If you want to just sit around and talk and joke, I'll crack a root beer and we'll hang out and we'll just tell jokes. And that's fine. But I would really rather you be, doing this in character. Like, commit to the bit. If you're gonna drop a bit of humor, commit to it. Stick with it. If you want to make a joke about dandelions or whatever, and you want to make it a running gag, so every time dandelions show up, commit to it. Remember it. Keep going with it. It's not all going to be Shakespeare, but that's okay. But it's all like D&D has a large component of vulnerability, putting yourself out there. And that's one of the things that I respect about it, is that, you get to kind of be in another person's skin for a while. And yeah, I highly encourage that kind of play. And one of the things with the Dungeon Delve was it was supposed to be like, since these characters are disposable and I'm kind of improvising things, that it's cool for you to improvise things and to just, be silly too. And if you want to be silly and you say something silly to the Dungeon Master, I want to say yes and to make it work. That is the main reason why Cageism is a thing in the Dungeon Delve. And I don't know if I've talked about this before, but the players were in a bad spot. They were locked in a cage. They were captured by goblins. And my son, one of the players, said he would like to call out for help, for the help of a deity. He didn't know if he was real. I don't know if you're out there, but if you are, Nicolas Cage, I could really use some help. And I was like, really? You're gonna make Nicolas Cage memes a thing? And he was like, yeah, I'm calling out. If there's a god named Nicolas Cage out there, I need help. So I rolled some dice and I was like, I want to make this work, because if I can honor the fact that he's trying to call out to a deity named Nicolas Cage, whatever that means, then that is going to embolden him to make other good decisions like this. Because this is, the Dungeon Delve is an experiment. And I rolled some dice, and I won't say everything because Jose, Jalapeno, you're in here, and you're in that game. But Nicolas Cage reached out, and I got to try out my Nicolas Cage voice, and I did a whole bunch of research on popular Nicolas Cage movies, and I found those little guys down there in the cage, and they were also very honorable to me, and I gave them blessings and boons and powers if they spread my name through the dungeon. So I made this whole thing called Cageism, and I made blessings for them, which were kind of like modified abilities from other classes or spells or stuff. I think I even used a couple boons from like the boon table in the Dungeon Master's Guide, and I reflavored them to be from popular Nicolas Cage movies, just to add to the joke and to the silliness. Because if you're gonna make the bit, you commit to the bit. So one of them has the blessing of the Wicker Man, and that was for Mac. Mac has the blessing of the Wicker Man, and that's all about, because he's a druid. No, he's a ranger, and I think he wants to like kind of go. It's something with insects, like it's like one of the new Tasha's druids or something like that, where you can have like a swarm of insects that follows around you. And so he was kind of leaning into the whole bees Nicolas Cage meme thing. And so I gave him the blessing of the Wicker Man, which lets him just cast the hex spell. at will, once a day. Not at will. I think it's like once a day or something like that. And these, if they're faithful to Nicolas Cage and they keep making Nicolas Cage jokes and spreading his goodwill or whatever, like these abilities will level up and they'll get stronger. And so like he casts the Hex, and Hex gives like disadvantage on ability checks and does a little damage, and essentially he like shoots out bees, and bees like swarm around the target, and they're like, not the bees, not the bees. Set, who is the super beefy Aarakocra monk, his blessing is the blessing of the Ghost Rider. And now and what it does is it lets him cast Shield of Faith, which gives him +2 AC for 10 minutes. And it makes like his head erupts in flames like Ghost Rider. And it gives him +2 AC. And that was because Set's character was kind of interesting. When they made their characters, I let them get some different benefits, because this is kind of a survival game. I gave them different benefits depending upon how they rolled their stats. So if they took standard array, they didn't get any special benefits, and that's what Mac did. He was very strategic, so his player was very strategic and wanted to rely on stats, so he took standard array, and I was like, that's fine. If you rolled 3d6 in a row, then you got to smuggle some equipment on, like smuggle a weapon on with you. And Urarth, the purple orc, that's what he did. So he ended up getting some decent stats. He had some pretty good ones, but he's got a couple stinkers. But then Set, the most stuff you could get was you could smuggle in a weapon and an equipment pack, which actually has become really clutch and is only one of the only reasons they've survived. But it is, you roll a d20 6 times in a row, and that's your stats. And that's what Set's character is. And no joke, he rolled 2 20s, and then he rolled a couple more stats, and he rolled a 1. So he's got like +5 to strength and dex, and like a 1 charisma, or maybe it was something like 6 charisma. It's crazy. He's only got like 7 HP. It's insane. Yeah. But he's like essentially this flying Aarakocra monk glass cannon. He hits like a truck, but he's only got like a handful of hit points. And so him getting 2 extra AC, if he fires off his blessing of the Ghost Rider and gets +2 AC, he's a lot harder to hit. If I would have given him like a thing that gives him temporary hit points, it wouldn't have done much just because his hit points are so low. So the benefit to him is that he gets the extra AC, and he makes him more survivable, because he really focuses on getting in, hitting, and then getting out, or staying at range. So yeah, he's got the blessing of the Ghost Rider, which makes his head erupt in flames, and he gets +2 to his AC. And then Urarth, the purple half-orc rogue, his was the blessing of the face-off, and it lets him cast Disguise Self at will, which is essentially the Warlock's Mask of Many Faces invocation. So it's like, it's not super overpowered. If he plays it right, he can use it to like sneak into places and disguise himself as other people. He hasn't run into too many uses of it yet, unfortunately, because a lot of the NPCs that they've been interacting with are goblins, and he's big. But yeah, those are the blessings of Nicolas Cage. They have a time limit, like for every person that they lead to Cageism, it buys them another week of blessings. So they're like under the clock to convert people to Cageism, because I was like, if you guys worked really hard for this, like you're gonna have to maintain it. But yeah, and that all stemmed out of a joke that when they first started the game, they washed up, like they were dropped off on shore in this metal cage, and they made a token for it. They asked for a token for it for the map, and so I put a token for it. And they were like, "We're gonna carry it with us," and I was like, "You're gonna drag this cage everywhere with you?" They're like, "Yep." Mac was like, it's gonna be a thing. Like later on in the game, like this cage is gonna be a clutch thing or whatever. And so they started calling it Nicolas Cage. And that's like what started the whole thing. And they committed to the bit, and it's like become a central core part of the story now. And this game is infinitely better because they committed to the bit and I just said yes. And that's all you need to know. Just commit to the bit. Just say yes. You're going to have so much more fun when you're playing D&D. I don't think I'm going to be able to finish this tonight. It's 11 o'clock. It's 11:15 actually. But we're pretty much done. Like I think that after we wash these guys, and like I might not even highlight them. Honestly, yeah, I'm probably gonna have to wash the whole thing. Just a red wash, probably with the what's that? What's the red wash that I have? Carosburg Crimson. Yeah, carrying around a barrel. Like that's the thing. It's like it's so fun. Just do it, guys. Just do it. Do the fun thing. Don't talk and think and discuss about the fun thing. Just do the fun thing. You know what? Nah, I actually really need to go to bed. I gotta get up early for work in the morning. Alright, well, I'd love to do my little fireside chat thing again. But if you missed the beginning of the stream, I apparently hit the delete key and deleted that whole scene from OBS. So it is like I'm gonna have to recreate it, and I'm super bummed about it. But there is no undo with OBS. If you move something or delete an element, it is gone. Yeah. I only got to use it once too. Also, hey, shoutouts to ANMCC. She was on earlier. Shoutouts to her for getting me this ring light. I think it's really helped out. Like even with the lighting over here in the paint area, it really casts a lot of nicely balanced light. It's pretty cool. But yeah, thanks for hanging out with me, guys. I had a bunch of fun talking about adventures and all the fun stuff. Thanks for hanging out, A10 and Feet. I appreciate you coming hanging out for the stream. Feel free to subscribe and follow. I'm trying to get up to 50 subscribers, kind of loosely, just because it unlocks some Twitch stuff that I'd like to integrate into the channel. So if you feel like spreading the word, you're welcome to. Otherwise, if you want to keep it private and we'll just hang out and just have cool small fun mini painting sessions, I'm cool with that too, because I just like the company. Oh, hey, that's right. We were going to talk for a second. We were going to talk about what to paint next. We had Bear, and then I have this Chimera. I also have, so one of my, in my pile of shame, this Remoraz. I really like this thing, but I'm so intimidated by it. Every time I look at it, I'm like, I don't know how to paint this thing. But it's super rad. It's a huge creature. Like it's huge sized. I think I'd like to just tackle it and get it done. I've got that one. I also need to finish painting my purple worm. So let me know what you guys would be interested in seeing painted. We also have the flumps. I got a batch of 6 of these little guys. Oh, we were going to look at the spreadsheet. That's what we were going to do. Let's take a look at that real quick. Let's do a top cast here. And let's open up numbers. Where's my monster manual one? There's my monster manual list. Ooh, that's in front of the chat. Let's scoot you over on this side. So let's see. We got the Androsphinx, Ankylosaurus. I printed him. That's right, I do have an Ankylosaurus too. If you guys are interested in dinosaurs, we could do him next. We've got the Azer too. He's alphabetical. He's this little plane of fire, smithy elemental dude. Awakened tree. I'd like to do an awakened tree, but they're huge, like literally huge, and it's going to take a long time to print something like that off. Badger. I actually printed the badger. Supported, printed. He's one of these. He's one of these little guys. Baylor, he's a big demon. I don't have time to do that one yet. Same thing with the Bulgura. Bat, bearded devil. There's the black bear. So I have an STL for it, I just haven't printed it yet. Black pudding, blue slots, bone devil. A carrion crawler might be fun. Those are, let me... Those are our big nasty guys. So what we were doing Axbeaks. Where's the Axbeak? Axbeak. We're not quite done painting them yet, so I can't mark those off. Cockatrices are really fun. Cockatrices are cool. Cloud Giant would also be really great to do, but they're huge. So here's the dragons. There's so many of them. There's like black, like the chromatic dragons. You got black, blue, green, red, and white. And then you got the metallic ones. You got silver, gold, copper, bronze, brass. And then you got all the way from wormling, young, adult, up to ancient. There's just so many of them. And I don't have like places to put them. And they're gargantuan. Like the biggest ones are gargantuan. They're huge. I'll have to print them into like 7 pieces and glue them all together. But I need something to print. Something that I don't have. An elephant. Could print an elephant. Yeah, my printer is not big. Like, it'll only print stuff like this big. Actually, the planar that we printed the other day, if you take him and you turn him like this, there we go. Like, that's about the size. Like, he barely fit in at an angle like that. What else we got? Fire elemental might be nice. Here's my flumps. A flesh golem could be cool. Gargoyles are fun. Actually, I want 2 gargoyles. I like them in pairs. These are all the giant creatures. Giant apes, giant blah blah blahs. Gibbering mouthers are cool. I'm not too interested in Githyanki right now. Those are like astral plane guys. Man, I really want to do a Hydra, but they're huge. I wonder if I have a Hydra. Let's go to manufacturing, photon, monsters. No, it doesn't look like I have one. I'll have to find one online. I wonder if MZ4250 has one. MZ4250. I mean, I'm sure he has one. Yep, there he is. That's pretty cool, Hydra. Has he redone it on Thingiverse? That's the same one. Okay, so it's got a body with the different heads plug into it. Oh, that one's actually got like a neck part too. And he's got a full one, but mine is not going to have the... Yeah, see, there's the neck. That actually seems pretty doable. As long as that body will fit. What is this thing? Oh, that's the tail. As long as that body fits on the plate, I think I could probably do that. Let's take a look. So let's go head 5, head 6, head 3, head 4, head 1, head 2, body, tail. I'm going to do my own base. Alright, let's see. Let's grab all of these guys. That's a lot of pieces. Pieces and parts. Alright, let's drop you into Precious Slicer. Let's see if you fit. Because if I have to cut this thing in half, I'm probably not going to do it. Probably wait till I get a bigger printer or something. Oh, buddy. That looks like it fits okay. So if we go like this and we rotate it up and we center it, nope, gotta go up a little bit more. Maybe something like that. Yeah, man. And actually, you're probably going to want to flip it all the way around. It'll even fit on its side, which means I could go like this. think I'm gonna try doing a Hydra. How are these heads? Oh yeah. I could even I could fit a bunch of these heads onto a single plate. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. As long as the tail shouldn't be crazy. Oh, look at that. Tail fits perfectly. Yup. I think that's a winner right there. I think I'm going to start supporting and printing a Hydra. I'm going to I will color you yellow. Nope, red. That didn't work. There we go. Yep, Hydra's next on the list. I think that's what I'm going to do. Oh. Yep. Yep, I'm going to get him printing. It's probably going to be a couple weeks before that's done printing. And I'm probably going to finish the Axbeaks. I might just finish the Axbeaks off camera so that they're ready to play on Saturday on my next game. But I just have the washing left. I'll show you guys what they look like. Alright, well hey, thanks everybody for hanging out and watching. I hope to see you guys Saturday. And I hope to have something to show on that Hydra. It's going to be really cool. Y'all be good. See you next time.